my name is Carly Stevens. I'm the author of the young adult fantasy novel Firian Rising, and this is English Nerd. So I was thinking today that I haven't done a video about classics in a while, and I know some of you got on board because of the All About Hamlet series. I am planning to get back to more classic stuff once the school year starts. As I record this, it's the end of June, so there's not as much call for classics videos, but I thought it would be fun to look at what I would do if I made a movie of A Tale of Two Cities. Tale of Two Cities is one of my all-time favorite classics. I get to teach it at school, and I may or may not have, gone through a bit of obsessiveness over the years. So if you are a fan of books, maybe in many years you too can have a crazy collection of the exact same thing. A couple of things before I begin with my ideas about what I would do, because I've thought about it, if I made a movie of A Tale of Two Cities. One, I have not actually seen a movie of A Tale of Two Cities. Now, before you get all up in arms, what I do is I look at the cast list briefly and focus mostly on Sidney Carton, because 15-year-old me who first read A Tale of Two Cities was a little bit in love with him, and he has to be cast correctly. But I have found that that is generally not the case at all, and I don't want my vision to be sullied by somebody who just doesn't fit the part in my imagination. So I haven't actually seen a movie version. Secondly, this video will include spoilers from A Tale of Two Cities, so if you haven't read the book, I don't know what you're doing. Get out of here. There are most definitely going to be some spoilers. Okay, so I haven't considered how I would do every scene. That would be absolutely insane. But after I finished Tale of Two Cities for the first time, sophomore year in high school, I was all inspired, and I wrote about 20 pages of an adaptation, script adaptation that I would do, which covered like the first couple of scenes. So picture this. You open on Beauvais, I suppose, because Dr. Manette is going to be our first character. And as he's riding along in his carriage, mid-1700s, this other, much nicer carriage comes alongside, and then two identical guys get out and start circling him like those two guys in suits do in Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. I think it's The Last Crusade. When he jumps out the window, and when Indiana Jones jumps out the window, and then that black SUV comes, and all the FBI-looking guys come and surround him. It's that kind of vibe. Now, if you've read the story, you know where I'm going. This is the earliest part of the story that's really talked about at any length. Dr. Manette is called by, it turns out, the Marquis St. Evremond and his brother to check out this woman that they've just driven to madness because of their cruelty, and he ends up seeing, Dr. Manette ends up seeing more than he should. He finds out what they did to the girl, which is abominable, and he also sees that they have killed her brother for trying to avenge her as well. So when Dr. Manette leaves that whole situation and goes back to his house all frazzled and horrified at what he's seen, I want to make sure that you can see Mr. Defarge, because Monsieur Defarge, Ernest Defarge, if you will, was a servant of Dr. Manette, and so I definitely want to see like baby Defarge peeking around the corner, having some kind of interaction with Dr. Manette as he goes into the house to write that letter to the authorities that he's seen some stuff go down. What I would want to do then is make sure that you knew that the brother who was killed trying to protect his sister had another sister. So you smash cut over to the other sister who's like running through a field or something, getting to the seashore, I guess, where she is going to grow up without a family otherwise. Poor thing. She's just a little girl, and I would want to get really close to her face and then go from her face to grown-up modern day Madame Defarge, because that's who it is. Madame Defarge is the little girl who's related to that family, which is why she ends up having that huge vendetta against the Evremonds that ends up being so important to the rest of the story. So yeah, that's how I would open the whole story. I would have Dr. Manette's backstory and how he was involved with the Evermonds and why they threw him in prison because he'd seen too much. And then I'd want to make sure that you saw that Madame Defarge is that little girl who escaped from the carnage of that whole situation, so it sets the stage for everything. I think that would be very, very cool. So the first modern scene would probably be the wine shop scene, which is chapter 5 of the... Oh, you didn't see that. I just threw this and then caught it. Which is chapter 5 of book 1 of The Tale of Two Cities. So that's probably where I would start the whole thing off. Again, I'm not going to go through every scene because that would be absolutely insane. What kind of a video would that be? But a couple other ideas that I have. One of the most important, in a way, is I want this subtlety to happen in the background. If you've seen The Matrix, the very first one, you know that there are some twins in the background. Or maybe you don't, but if you watch it again, there's some twins in the background when Neo is actually in the Matrix. Not when he's out, but when he's in the Matrix, you can see twins in the background, which gives you this subtle mental hint that there's something not quite right, there's something off going on. I would want to do something similar, but for a different reason. I would want to have a ton of the extras, you know, maybe some of the Jacques or some of the people in the Old Bailey at the beginning, or people milling around. I would want there to be a lot of twins, just kind of as an Easter egg throughout the whole story, because throughout the whole thing, there are so many mirrored characters, and characters that look like each other, and things like that that are actually meant to be on the forefront, that I think it would be cool to have that as a motif through the whole story. Not only do Darnay and Carton look exactly the same, you know, Darnay is just like the cleaned up version of Carton, even though he's always the one on trial. But you also have the Marquis St. Evermond and his brother at the beginning. Those are identical twins. You have Jerry Cruncher and Jerry Cruncher Jr. You have Lucy Manette and Lucy Manette Jr. You have all these obvious or not so obvious mirrored characters. And so I think having twins in the background and even mirrors on a lot of the walls, like you're always kind of like can see something out of the corner of your eye. I think that would be very cool. There are mirrors that feature anyway in the book, like at the end, again, told you there would be some spoilers. At the end, when the Darnay family is fleeing France and trying to get back to England, and Miss Pross, the ever underestimated and awesome Miss Pross, is washing her face and trying to get herself together as she's packing up and trying to make it look like the Darnays didn't run for their lives. She's washing her face and she keeps looking in the mirror because she feels like some of us do late at night, like there's some horror movie thing that's about to happen, because she's very on edge. Miss Pross is very on edge. And then one of the times when she looks up, she actually sees Madame Defarge behind her in the mirror, which is so creepy and awesome, and it leads to this like showdown that you didn't know you needed. So good. So yeah, Tale of Two Cities. Other than that, I would just want to make sure that the casting was spot on. You know, my Sydney Carton needs to be very dreamily handsome. Lucy Manette, she really, like, we already know what she looks like. She was based on the mistress of Dickens. They met when they were acting together in a production of Wilkie Collins' The Frozen Deep, which I have not read, but I hear that the plot is fairly similar to A Tale of Two Cities, and it actually inspired Dickens to write A Tale of Two Cities, because Dickens himself played the Carton-type character who is all down and out and ends up sacrificing himself at the end. So if you look up a picture of Ellen Ternan, that was her name, Ellen Ternan, she looks exactly like Lucy Manette is described. She has this statuesque kind of features, she has blonde hair, she has that expressive forehead that Dickens just goes on about if you've read the book. So just find somebody who looks kind of like that, and apparently that would be good. Again, if I made a movie, I would give Lucy Manette a bit more of a personality than she has in the books. I mean, Lord love you, Dickens. Heaven knows I do, but man, Lucy Manette is a weak link in an otherwise awesome chain of characters. Everything circles around her, but she's like the spoke, or not the spoke, whatever that circular thing is, the hub of the wheel. all the other characters are doing cool stuff around her, but she's doing, I don't know, nothing. Sort of being nice. Being weirdly perfect. I don't mind good characters. I like good characters, but she just doesn't have a whole lot going on. I don't know why Darnay and Carton and Stryver, everybody else just loses their minds over Lucy. She seems a little bit boring to me, but I would add a bit more personality to her in the movie so you can at least understand why these people do what they do, why Carton does what he does. I mean, I only like Lucy because Carton likes Lucy. That's what it comes down to, essentially. So hopefully you enjoyed these ramblings. If you have any thoughts on this, I'd love to hear them. I think about these kinds of things sometimes. To be fair, I mean, I've taught this book for many years now, so at least I've had an excuse to mull these things over. But yeah, I'd honestly love to hear your thoughts. Like this video if you like it, and don't forget to subscribe for more English nerdy goodness. I'll see you on Monday. Bye.